Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the humongous. The Syrian refugee crisis, the European refugee crisis, is heartbreaking. If you watch the interviews with the refugees on Al Jazeera, these are highly educated people. These are people who are secular, like you and me. These are people who are simply looking for a home, a place where they can have a job and a place to live, a place where they can raise their families in peace. They are getting none of that. The Syrian refugee crisis alone has produced 9 million refugees just from one tiny little country, Syria. Is there a solution to this? Yes. There's a big solution to this. The Syrian refugee crisis is caused by two countries, Iran and Saudi Arabia. They are using Syria as a battleground for a proxy war over control of the Middle East. Who started it? Well, the Iranians with their proxy armies started to encircle Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia responded defensively by trying to weaken Iran, by trying to pry away one of Iran's closest allies, Syria. So the Saudis took advantage of the Arab Spring to begin a proxy war with their own armies, fighting the Iranian proxy armies for control of Syria. The result is 9 million people, very much like you and me, who have no safe place to live and are undergoing horrible things on the borders of countries like Hungary today. We have to do something about this. But who is we? The United States has nothing to do with causing this. Barack Obama, for all of his deficits, has kept us out of this proxy war. And NATO has had nothing to do with this. The only countries directly involved who hold the responsibility for this human tragedy are Iran and Saudi Arabia. So when it comes to paying the price of resettling these people, these refugees, that should be borne entirely by Iran and Saudi Arabia, two countries fattened by oil revenues that should be able to afford this. But what kind of solution could they possibly offer? The strangest solution you can imagine. Do an Israel. The Saudis, over the course of the last 40 years or so, have done wonders with producing plants to desalinate water. They have approximately 90 water desalination plants. They are one of the world's leaders in taking seawater and removing the salt and turning it into water with which you can irrigate farms or with which you can keep people alive. They used that from 1976 to 1993. They used that water to go from a mere 400,000 acres under cultivation to 8 million acres. God knows how many they've got today. But acreage, producing wheat and dairy products, which is what the Saudis are producing, is not the real answer for the problems of the Middle East. The real answer is cities. Israel turned a desert and malarial swamps into gardens. It was a miracle of agriculture and gardening. And people like me, Zionists, some of us, hope to take those technologies and transfer them to our closest relatives on the face of the earth, our Arab brethren. But our Arab brethren preferred to make war. The point is, you can solve this refugee crisis by building new Tel Avivs. Not Jewish cities, Muslim cities. Where? In Saudi Arabia and Iran. Saudi Arabia and Iran? How can you build entirely new cities in Saudi Arabia and Iran? Well, Israel depends on 3 cities. And that's Haifa, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem, one of which is very old. The other 2 are relatively new. Saudi Arabia has the territory of 78 Israels. How many cities do you imagine that makes possible? 240 if you follow the Israeli examples. Iran has the space, the territory of 61 Israels. Between the two of them, they have the space of approximately 140 Israels. Israel has built 3 magnificent cities. How many cities can Saudi Arabia and Iran build with these marvelously talented, marvelously articulate, marvelously educated refugees, tons. Saudi Arabia already has the germ of a city with which to work. It's a city called Kaji. It's a city near an offshore area in which gas and oil has been discovered. It's a city of only 65,000 people. And Saudi Arabia has big plans for that city. It wants to expand it into a major industrial hub. It wants the city to produce its own water with desalination plants that use only renewable fuels, only natural fuels, only sustainable fuels, not oil and gas, by the way, but Saudi Arabia has tons of oil and gas with which to desalinate water. If that city can be grown from 65,000 people to 3 million people, that solves the refugee crisis, or at least most of it. If another city of that kind can be built in Iran, that solves the rest of the refugee crisis. And who could be more magnificently equipped to build new cities than these marvelously articulate, marvelously trained, marvelously educated people who are fleeing Syria right now? So what am I advising for Saudi Arabia and Iran? First of all, they bear the entire responsibility for the Syrian refugee crisis. 100% of the responsibility. They should shoulder 100% of the burden, not Angela Merkel and Germany. Build cities. Use desalinated water. Use modern technology. Use this incredible people power to build the cities in which they will live and in which, if they become entrepreneurial, they will thrive. This is do. Okay, before we do this is Howard the Humongous. Do an Israel. Do a Tel Aviv. I'm calling on you, Iran and Saudi Arabia. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make, or want to know why? Ask how! And now, for that slimy, sleazy, sinister, seditious, sneaky little off button, I think I've found it.